ABC News crime and terrorism analyst on the phone. Brad, what's the latest in this case?
Well, as you pointed out, Tony, the outrage seems to just continue day in and day out. And I think you've hit some important points that, did this kid get a break because the judge is a Stanford graduate, he saw empathy and, the kid's future, etc. I mean, it's all well and good. Judges are human. But the reality is you have to sentence people for their behavior and the seriousness of their crime. I mean, you look at a football player by the name of Corey Beatty at Vanderbilt who had some generally similar circumstances of an unconscious co-ed. He got convicted and got 15 to 25 years in Nashville. So, what is going on here? You may have hit the right point. I don't know. But this is just at the bottom. The bottom line is this is not right.
Is there, within the legal system in California, every state has at least slightly different rules as it relates to the criminal justice system. Is there an opportunity for the judge to either reconsider his sentencing or for the victim or somebody to push for an appeal where an appeals court might request another look at the sentencing, or is this pretty much it? The judge made his call and that's the way it's going to be?
Well, there is some procedural steps. I don't think they'll probably be effective. But yes, there is some avenue. I mean, you really have to show that the judge was biased or egregious in his sentence some way. And sometimes that's difficult to prove because my guess is that doesn't play into this. I think clearly the judge believed that because this kid was really sort of on a rocket course, scholarship to Stanford for swimming, apparently was about to do something with the Olympic swimming team, that because all of that got crushed, that was a big enough punishment. But, what does that say about similar circumstances to someone who is not of that background that's going to some small school someplace else, and they get a big sentence based on this. I mean, the prosecutor recommended 6 years. I mean, that's a big jump from 6 months to 6 years.
Yeah, and apparently, as I recall from reading the woman's letter, the probation office did not recommend. There was some sort of pre-sentence report. Did not recommend much of a sentence.
Well, I think someone has said, and maybe the judge, that he took the recommendation of the probation service. So, where is that coming from? I was a federal probation and parole officer 10 years, and, I would tell you I would not have recommended 6 months. I might have even gone beyond what the prosecutor recommended. But, those are just supposed to be guidance for you as the judge, not the final say. And so you have to look at two things: the seriousness of the crime and the impact or the effect of that sentence on the community. And, I don't see that happening in this case. I think the judge probably in his own mind, feels he did the right thing. I just think that there was not maybe some further thinking about what effect a sentence like that would have on others down the road, and show perhaps a disparity between, Brock's behavior and, for example, Corey Beatty's behavior I mentioned a few minutes ago. I mean, it just doesn't balance.
Well, and I think the other thing that it turns the focus to is how our criminal justice system treats victims of sexual assault. The woman's very detailed letter about the process of the investigation, the process of the trial, everything that it did to her and how she felt victimized and re-victimized throughout the process, that's got to raise some alarm bells throughout the criminal justice system, whether you're a prosecutor, a public defender, a judge, a probation officer, a police officer, to say, wait a minute, what are we doing wrong here? I mean, and this is coming the same year in which there's been rising concern about campus rapes all across the country, and stories all over the country where states have these DNA kits that from alleged rape cases that haven't even been tested. And it just builds to this narrative of, are we really taking rape that seriously in this country?
And I think the short answer is, to a certain degree, no. And a point taken about re-victimizing the victim, the nature of the system, unfortunately, does a little bit of that, because you have to do all these physical tests of the victim at the hospital after she's been assaulted. Then she has to recount it to an interrogator or an investigator. Then she has to maybe recount it in court. So that part you can't change, but how you approach her, how you treat her, and what support system you give her are really the key components here, and that is what is spotty. There are some jurisdictions I've worked with in the Washington, D.C. area where I live and have worked that are just top shelf in doing all of the above. Others, not so much. So, I don't know what Stanford University has in place, but between the campus authorities, the police on the campus, the county prosecutor, obviously, that brought the charges, all of that has to be a collective package of how you deal with it. And that really is important, and unfortunately doesn't always get the time, energy, and money that it deserves.
Thanks, Brad. We've got to wrap it up. Brad Garrett, ABC News. You're listening to the Big 550 KTRS.